Here it is, the unboxing of the Samsung Q9F 65-inch QLED 4K HDR TV. This arrived today. We'll take a look at this cutting-edge 4K screen as compared to the LG 65E7P that I have as well. To compare this. When you unbox these, careful to note these are packaged vertically. In fact, they shipped out to me on a pallet, so it was never laid flat. Problem is, these screens are so razor thin these days that any pressure on the screen itself can cause cracks. So when you unbox these, it's important to keep it vertical and follow the box instructions to avoid any damage to the screen. Let's go ahead, we'll take this up, set it up, and see how it looks. Alright, tough part's over. I got the television onto actually a bed. It recommends that you put it on a table. Well, I think a bed will do, so long as you're not sitting on this thing. The important thing is not to put pressure on the screen itself as you're lifting, and to use the edges as you unpack this. So the kit itself does also have two stand pieces. Looks like a back piece, one connect portion, and some accessory kits. So what we'll go ahead and do right now is just assemble the television together by connecting some of these one connect pieces to the television screen, attaching the stand, and hopefully get this set up. So one of the cool features of this model is Samsung's latest cable management system. This is the power cable, and this is what they call the One Connect, which is fiber optic cable that goes actually to the breakout box that sits separate from the television. This way, basically all the cables, including your HDMI ports, are actually offloaded from the back of the TV. And in fact, this closes with the back panel over here to hide all your cable connections. Now, what may be a little deceiving is that you still do have a power cable and not just this single optical cable that needs to be connected. Power cable has to be hidden in the wall as well. A lot of the pictures show how thin this optical cable is, which indeed it is very thin and can lead to a breakout box towards the bottom of the TV or in a cabinet. But you still have to manage the power cable, although compared to other devices, this does hide the cables of the TV significantly. So this, as impressive a TV as this is subject to some manufacturing and design flaws. Note that this screw that I have attempted to put into the pre-drilled slot is misaligned, and the design of this bracket is such that these screws are supposed to drop down and become flush with the stand as such. This one was fine, but I'm disappointed that a $4,000 TV has poor machining such that this screw now is in a position where I can't screw it in, and I cannot also loosen this, because the catch is that this bracket needs to have these screws come out and slide off. So essentially I have a stand that's permanently stuck on the back of this TV because this screw refuses to move inward because it's not catching the back of the TV well. And I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to unscrew this thing, and short of turning the TV over on its head, which I don't think is wise to do, this will have to do. But I'm not impressed, Samsung, by the consistency and quality already in the setup of this, as this should have been very elementary. So on design and aesthetics, sure, you guys designed for a wireless and seamless mounting process, but when it comes to even a single simple screw, this is a failure. Another part of Samsung's cable management system is this bar here, which is just stuck on. And basically this area here allows you to hide the cable either to the left side or the right side of the frame. And Looks like there's a little peel here. Give that gloss effect. Now, of note, you have to be careful here because at the hinge, what this can risk doing with this metal or plastic cover is cutting the optical cord. So they tell you to hang this loose so that this doesn't get crimped. Essentially, this comes out the back end so you can manage this. Again, I'm still not impressed by the defect in manufacturing that you can see here. Clearly that screw is not threaded correctly and I can't get it out, I can't get it in. This is compared to the other side, which is flush. This leads to some instability on this leg. Let's just hope it doesn't compromise the TV's integrity, otherwise this is going back to Samsung. Another issue here is not being able to get this leg off anymore without cutting these screws off with a power tool, which is disappointing should we ever want to wall mount this, which we could. Alright, well let's plug this in and get this set up and see how it looks. Alright, well here we are turning it on for the first time. Pretty impressive screen. Here's the welcome screen. And the remote, which I have heard great things about. Setup information. We'll connect to our wireless here. Show you a little bit more in a second. So here's the TV itself. I've played one of our Spectrum apps. One of the downsides of the Tizen operating system is that it frequently crashes, including these apps. And the only thing that I could figure out after looking online is that when an app crashes, the downside of the simplicity of the remote control is that there is no way to actually quit out of the app. And after much consternation, if an app freezes, such as Spectrum in this case, and does not respond in any which way, the only actual way to actually address this is holding down the power button and actually resetting the entire TV itself until the Samsung logo flashes, such as this. Unfortunately, this is happening quite frequently and is becoming irritating, although some of this perhaps is to the actual app programming to blame, as far as, for example, Spectrum in this case actually being a culprit. But one must suspect that perhaps the operating system itself is also having some problems, as you can see here too. So again, the interface is somewhat janky and does have problems. Standard fare, such as the Netflix, Amazon and whatnot, they do seem to work very well, however, and as you can see here, we have, actually we're just watching The Defenders in 4K here, and the, whoops, so the content is extremely crisp. It's in high definition HDR. And the screen quality in general is pretty amazing. The blacks are very precise. This is in high definition 4K. Actually, it's in 4K. And as I pan through this, you'll notice that this is at a very close angle. You're getting some screen reflection here from the daylight there, but blacks are very defined, even from a wide angle. Although again, the glossy screen, as you're noticing actually in this video, that there is some reflection that you will pick up. Screen quality itself, we have uniform colors. There's no banding that is overtly visible. But one thing that I did notice was that some of the perhaps fabrication of the actual screen itself does leave a little bit of distortion. You'll see that in the far right corner from a very wide angle, as we move left and right, actually in the reflection of the window, you'll see how the screen does distort a little bit. As you can see, that outside house window there distorts a little bit with some changes in the uniformity of actually the surface of the screen, but only at a very acute angle to the screen. Okay, the blacks compared to OLED are a little less dark. However, for the change in the contrast, the brightness is far brighter. One feature of this TV does seem to be an auto dimming feature. I've actually yet to figure out exactly how to turn it off, as at nighttime, if I turn on the bedroom lights here, it overly corrects and seems to dim the image too much. So that may take some tweaking. Overall, the breakout box here that's connected to the optical cable in the back hides very well. In this case, it's not wall mounted, but connects to a power bar. Other reviewers have mentioned that not only do you have a optical cable that's millimeters thin to make it look invisible, but there is also, like I had mentioned, a power cable that still has to be attached. And in that regards, you do have this large unit that has all the HDMI ports, Ethernet ports, USB, and coax for your cable, as well as power, and a uplink connector to the TV itself that sits in this box that needs to be placed somewhat near the TV as well, although that could be more strategically hidden. Overall, I think the quality of this TV is pretty amazing. The screen is 4K. The colors are very crisp, although in this particular segment here on Netflix, I don't know why we're having a lot of this artifact there, and it may just be in association with actually the content there. The overall build of this TV is a little lacking. I think the screw machining could have been a little bit more precise. The LED, in my personal opinion, is still inferior to OLED. I do like the colors and the blacks better in the OLED, where these faded dark areas, as you can see pretty notably in the beginning of this area here, seems to be a little bit more washed out. But for a LED panel, the QLED with the 32 levels of micro dimming in this model does seem to be very impressive. And for general viewing, I have no major concerns or major issues with this. For its premium factor, though, I would have expected a little bit more polish, especially on the mounting apparatus. Again, the screw and the user interface is a little fickle, a little less user-friendly. Samsung, I wish you did not require all of us to register for your services in order to use apps. It seems as another layer that it becomes more cumbersome, as well as also is more of a concern for privacy, as we have to disclose or provide information to not only the apps but also register with Samsung in order to use certain featured apps. I'd give this TV 4 out of 5 stars because of those qualms. The pros obviously being flagship 4K LED TV, and I think this is the best 65-inch LED TV in 4K that you can get, although the rival OLED technologies at the same price point may warrant a closer head-to-head comparison. Thanks for watching.